Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Commissioners' meeting this evening. If you will join me for a moment of silent prayer, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll have public comment. We don't have any public comments, so we will move on to recognitions. Are there any of the commissioners that have any recognition?
Just want to thank all those that had a hand in the Christmas decorations that are going up. Not finished yet.
If there's nothing further, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Gentlemen, we need to amend the agenda in several places. Under discussion items, we will need to do the emergency services salaries for discussion, and we will move the elections office restrooms under that in discussion items. And on action items, we need to add the Animal Protection Society. And then Mr. Hall, under Commissioner comments, has some reports he wants to go over with us, and we will add a closed session to the meeting. I need approval of the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Already added to that.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Hall. Jeffers. Owen. Mr. Ostrowski. Mr. Massengale. Mr. Bay. Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda, which consists of A, November the 7th, 22, regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Roll call voting. Mr. Massengale. Aye. Mr. Ostrowski. Aye. Mr. Owen.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffers. Aye. Mr. Howell. Aye. Mr. Dickerson. Aye. McVeigh. Aye. Motion carries. Discussion items. We will discuss the casual fund update for heating assistance. Mr. Miller and Ms. Esther. Everett.
Commissioners, we have with us our Senior Center Director, Janine Everett. She'll lead the discussion for capital fund update on heating sound.
Good evening, Commissioners. Wanted to share, and I believe it's in your packet of information in regards to heating assistance that the Capital Fund provided last year, in the beginning of this year. We received, between the Capital Fund and the Capital Parish, we received $46,000. We received $7,500 from Duke Energy, and we received $9,500 from the town of Milton. As you can see noted at the bottom, and also let me just kind of recap. When we decided as a committee of the Capital Fund, the cap on those dollars were $500. So if they reached their $500, that was all that they got. Now, some folks did not need that much in order to cover their electric bill or possibly their fuel bill. So we capped it at $500. So we had approximately $63,000 total that we were able to assist. Now, the Capital Fund assisted 190 folks under Duke Energy, Piedmont Electric, and the heating fuel application. We paid 11 rental and work applications.
Got enough trucks?
They're the same.
I also talked to Nell Page, and Nell is here this evening with me from the Castle Parish. They have helped 46,000 households. 46 households. They have done 21 electric, 9 fuel for heat, 1 water, 2 they assisted with wood for heating, and then they have done 13 for rent. And I believe they have spent all of the funds with the exception of, I think Nell just told me 47 cents. So that's just to say, this is what we paid out end of last year, the beginning of this year, just to assist those folks that were in need of help, to help them cover their electric bills and so on. Brian, do you want to add anything with that?
I'm sorry, I was checking on the noises outside. You went over all the numbers and the cost associated with those numbers. Okay. Commissioners, we do, it's no surprise to anyone that during the winter, we have a lot of people in need here in Caswell. We have a lot of older homes. It's one of your trucks.
Is it my truck?
I don't think so.
They my truck.
I'm sorry, we got a big fire and that's what's probably kicking everything off.
I think Jason was check on it.
It's Mark's truck.
So we do have a lot of older homes with drafty windows, doors that aren't sealed properly, so on and so forth, that cause heating bills to be running much higher in some of the older homes than we would normally expect to see. And Janine and I spoke briefly right before the meeting, and we think this has some impact on the number of people that we see every year that need help that we have to serve. So I'm happy to report tonight to the board though, and Janine will go over this. So why don't you go ahead and tell them about that?
So we kind of jumped, I mentioned it in the last meeting, that I had applied for a grant, which was a supportive services for housing and home modifications. It's a $75,000 grant for 2 years. It will extend, I believe, from December. Actually, it started in September, but they actually extended this particular grant out because they still had some funds left. And it will go into September 30th of 2024. Those services are, the funds are available to help, of course, senior adults who are 60 and older. The grant does have caps on certain things, but it is to help with installing doorknobs, reliable locks and key deadbolts, windows fitted with reliable locks, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors installed if local fire departments do not do that. It also will do minor home repairs such as primary bathroom repairs, sink, tub, shower, or commode, kitchen sink repairs, doorway widening, broken doors or windows repaired or replaced, shingles and roofing felt replaced, and that's limited, of course, and floor and ceiling were wall repair. There are some mobility improvements, which would be grab bars. We will also be able to build ramps, and right now I've got 6 that are sitting on the waiting list to get started on. It will also repair steps. It also will do basic household furnishings and inoperable home appliances such as stove, hot water heater, refrigerator, washing machine, and heating or cooling units. And again, these are capped, but we will be working with businesses that are in Caswell County first and or volunteers to help us do that. So that is part of what we'll be looking to do once you guys have approved this, then we'll be able to move forward and start working. I have 2 individuals right now that are in need. One lady is in need of a lot of repairs to the home that she lives in. So we'll probably have to look at that and discuss with her what she feels like is the most pressing issue that she has. She also is raising her great niece, who is a teenager. So I know she has need. I have another senior adult who is in need. She has a leak in her ceiling, which is causing some floor issues and also some water issues for her. So I have those 2 at the moment. But we hope that maybe with this funding, that we'll be able to help in some way with some of this other, with the heating issues that maybe some of these folks have. As Brian noted, a lot of our senior adults are living in the same home. They may even have grown up with their parents, and a lot of these homes do not have new doors or new windows, and they are very drafty. We are also working with a couple of individuals who are willing to cut wood and bring it so that we have it at the center in the event that somebody comes to me or to the senior center and is in need of wood to help them heat their homes. Most of you know a lot of our senior adults, they don't get a lot in Social Security. A lot of them are $800 and $900 is what they get every month. And if they got to put that out to pay for a full tank of fuel to heat their home, then they're kind of, stuck. They don't have any money to pay the rest of their utilities. They don't have money to buy groceries and things of that nature. So we're just trying to figure out a way that maybe we can help them in that capacity.
So Commissioners, we're happy to answer any questions you may have about the numbers or about the program in general. I think we mentioned this at the last meeting we had. When we have an application and money is awarded to one of these applications, we pay the provider individually, not the individual making application. So we would pay the heating bill to Duke or to Piedmont Electric or to Thomas Brothers or whomever. We pay it directly to them. So we're happy to answer any questions you have.
There was a lot of noise going on. I didn't quite catch it all. How much money did the county give to this outfit last year?
So they gave $36,000 to the Caswell Fund and $10,000 to the Caswell Parish. That's what the county gave. It was supplemented by $9,500 from the town of Milton, and I think it was $7,500 from Duke Energy.
You have how much money now in
I don't have any, all of that money was for us, for the Caswell Funds. The Caswell Parish, Nell Page just told me she had 47 cents left out of hers from the county. So all of the funding has been spent. It actually for us was spent earlier in the year.
Where did those expenditures go? The weather hasn't.
Well, this was earlier, this was last winter when we received the money. So it was during the winter time from 21 into 22 when we did that. So we were in the middle of the winter at that point in time.
Any more questions? And how much would you like to have from us?
It would be nice to have, at least the 40,000 because it does, once folks know that we have the funds, then we literally have a revolving door of folks who are in need. And as Brian says, we do not pay that money directly to the individual. we pay whoever it is, Duke Energy, Piedmont Electric, Thomasville, we pay it directly to them. They, the individuals do not get the funds, so we can make sure that it gets paid. And it is a one-time situation.
At the last meeting, you said, Duke Energy gave
Once the
you,
work completed, do we have the inspector go back and inspect the work, the people that do the work?
As far as the new grant, the 75, we will have to work, that's something we'll have to work out. Mr. Jeffries, I don't have that particular information just yet, but we will probably work with building inspections to see what we need to do with that.
And we can,
Sure, because we had this happen before, the man didn't do the work, and, you know, he got paid, so he moved on. I mean, you know, I think we need to go ahead and check it behind and make sure the work is done.
and we can also, work with our Section 8 housing, inspector to inspect these houses as well as building inspection.
you said last meeting, Duke Energy, I believe, gave you how much?
They gave us $7,500.
And they gave you how much this year?
Well, excuse me, let me back that up. It was, $5,000 last year, and then it was $2,500 this year. So a total of 75.
Piedmont Electric give you anything?
No, sir.
Has it been requested?
No, sir. Not from me anyway. Now, have y'all made any request of Piedmont Electric?
They don't make grants per se. They do have a fund, and I can't think of the name of it right now, something like Helping Hands, that we can sometimes get them to help the client. Because we are limited, just like you are, as to how much help we can give. And so sometimes we will call on Piedmont Electric to see what they can offer from their fund, but they don't really make grants. And the thing about the Duke Energy grant is, it can only be used for Duke customers. Not Duke Progress, not Piedmont Electric, not any heat, oil, or gas, or anything. Just for Duke Energy customers. So it's very limited.
Well, how many Duke Power customers do we have in the county versus Duke Energy? Can we ask for Duke Power versus also plus Duke Energy?
Make Piedmont,
Duke Energy and Duke and they're two different entities.
Yes, they are.
So if one gave, if he gave us 5,000 last year, did both come from Duke Energy or did they both came from Duke Energy? So number one, why did they cut it? Number two, could we not ask the Duke, just the Duke part for a request?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Janine, may I offer something?
Sure.
This Duke Energy grant, it came from the old Share the Water program. Remember when you were paying your electricity bill, you were asked to put a little extra in? And that was money that was used to help people who needed the assistance. That is morphed into what they now call Share the Light. But I still think it comes partially from these contributions that are made from customers. But it is limited only to Duke Energy. I don't know the split in the county between the two Dukes, but Duke Progress is what was CP&L.
Right.
any more questions?
One. Mr. Miller, could you shed some light on why we're having so many additional requests that were not included in the budget the first time around? This is going down a slippery slope. This is a good outfit that's requested this money now, but it's one of many that has come before this board, and that's eventually going to lead to a tax increase if we keep doing this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. What I'll say is last year and the previous year, there were plentiful COVID funds available to be able to make these kind of grants to organizations. I am a little concerned at this point in time about our ability, the local government's ability to continue doing these type things. I'm concerned that, organizations may come to rely on this funding, and we're not going to have this funding under our current structure, i.e. the tax rate, to provide to them on a yearly basis like we have in the past. So moving forward, I think the board's got to be very strategic about how it goes about making these kind of appropriations. Did that answer your question?
Close enough.
Any more questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you.
I do need to just say one thing, the grant to home modification, I do need that approved by the commissioners.
We've got you on the agenda for under action items,
Okay. All right.
so that'll be,
And just want to let you all know, since we discussed the grant for the driver for Meals on Wheels, that was sent into PTRC last week. I believe they will start letting folks know about that early December.
And as soon as we hear back on the outcome of that grant application, we'll come back before the board and let the board know our recommendations for moving forward with additional drivers or strategies for Meals on Wheels.
thank you.
How much did we request from PTRC?
It was $56,000. We did, the first year I did one driver. The second year, I actually added a second driver in the event that we had built up. And by the end of that, I hope to have funding one way or another that we can keep that driver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to emergency services salaries at this time.
So if y'all go ahead and move up, all of you. Commissioners, first, you'll remember the board approved an iteration of a salary study we had completed during the budget cycle, which was extremely beneficial to employees. What we've noticed is since, and if you'll remember, you approved 90% of the recommended salary for employees, or a 7% increase, whichever was greater at that time. Those were the caveats. There were a couple other minor points, but for most employees, it was 90% of the recommended salary or 7%, whichever was greater. So what we've noticed over the last 6 months since budget time is many jurisdictions around Castle, Alamance, Person, Rockingham, Guilford, Orange, and even Wake County, which will never be able to compete with Wake County. But a lot of these jurisdictions have started increasing their rates of pay, especially for emergency services, at an alarming rate to me. This is alarming because it leaves us with employees that are, in some cases, leaving, and us not being able to recruit applicants for our programs. So we have the Director of Emergency Management and EMS, the Director of 911, and we have the Sheriff with us tonight to talk a little bit about their plight in recruiting and retention.
Thank you, Commissioners. Right now, I have 28 full-time employees that are on. I have 3 positions that are not filled. I have 1 position that the medic has been out on workers' comp for about 14 months. So that has put us at a critical point right now. If I lose 1 or 2 more people, it's going to push us over the threshold of being at the critical level. I also have 2 employees that have their 30 years in. They could come tomorrow and say, I'm retired and I'm done. With that being said, it has caused us the shortage, and being down those positions, it has caused us to have to park our 4th peak level, our peak truck that was approved year before last. So we go down frequently to 3 trucks. If we do have the 4th truck, it's because full-time people signed up and work, and we're having to pay time and a half for that position. We have, Jason and myself have been to the local EMT classes, the paramedic class at PCC, RCC, Durham Tech, trying to recruit people to come here. Currently, with the 3 positions we have open, we have 0 applications for full-time positions. We did offer a medic a full-time job about 3 weeks ago. He turned it down because of the salary. Said it was, he couldn't come to work for that amount of money. The rapid increase for salaries in EMS for the profession is great. I never thought that I would see salaries for EMS at the level they are. But the problem is they're being driven by the bigger counties, Durham, Guilford. There's one county in North Carolina that they're putting it on social media and sending out. I got a postcard from out west. Their starting salary for a medic with no experience is $74,000 a year. We can't compete with that. I wouldn't want to compete with that. We have 2 employees that have not officially said that they are looking, that they are leaving, but they are considering going somewhere else to a bigger service. If they do that, they would be getting about a $6 an hour raise. I can't fault them for that. Are we trying to do everything we can to keep them? Yes. But, they've got to do what they think is best for them and their family. And it doesn't matter what Jason or myself do, Brian, y'all commissioners, to make EMS the best service that we could possibly have. You're going to have a percentage of employees that they're going to chase that dollar. And most of the time it's the younger employees that we have that are not worried about the retirement or whatever. They're going to chase that dollar, and it hurts us in the long run. Currently we're in a nationwide shortage of paramedics. Talked to one of the training officers from Forsyth County. They have 45 openings right now. They're going from having 22 ambulances on the road to 13 ambulances on the road. And they're doing some stuff that I cringed when he told me this. But with the shortage, we have to be able to compete in some way. And if our salary is not, I'm not saying we need to be paying $28 an hour like some of these, but we've got to be competitive with the salaries in our immediate area. And right now, we are the lowest in the area. So I have no way to bargain or try to get employees right now. Any questions from?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Owen asked a question.
Just a question for you, and you might not know the exacts. but I did some calling today. Alamance starting their EMTs basic at $17. Person starting theirs at $17.57 and incremental increases up to $22.40. Rockingham $17.51. Are those three salaries correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're starting ours at $14.79?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
And you may not know this for answer to this, but do you know off the top of your head, how many of our employees are county-based, live in here in county?
This is, I don't know exactly, but I would say around probably 30–40%. Roughly. Would that be a safe bet, Jim? I think he's counting it up now.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to be exact. I just think it points to a bigger problem. Okay. I think it probably points to a bigger problem the county has that has never been addressed. That's it. That's all.
Do we bill, Medicare, Medicaid, and other insurances when we have to do these EMS stops, pickups?
Yes, sir. We bill Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. Last year was the largest collection that we've ever had in the county. We were really close to $1.3 million that we collected last year in bill.
Do we ever have to go to Boy Scout camp or to the ganglands to pick up someone and take them to the hospital or get them treated?
Yes, sir.
Who do we bill for that?
The patient. Yeah, it's not through the scout camp, it's whoever the patient is, they're the ones that get billed for.
Okay. What's the average payment records?
It actually changes by the month, and I know it doesn't make sense, but our average bill or reimbursement for transport, roughly on the average has been about $280 to $290 per transport. And that's money collected, not money billed.
Okay, I'm just thinking about the percentage of those folks that actually pay.
I'm sorry.
The percentage of those folks that actually pay.
I don't know the exact percentage as far as, as far as patients that pay and who doesn't pay. Because like Medicaid patients, we only get a certain amount. If we bill $450, we may get $100 for Medicaid. And we can't bill for anything above Medicare, depending on if they have supplemental insurance. This is whether or not we
I'm
get
just thinking about the average. Most of these, if we have to go to Cherokee Scout or to the gangland, chances are they're not going to be Medicaid, medical care. So just roughly the percentage of those folks that actually pay up 40%, 50%, 60%, 100%.
I don't know for sure, sir, and I don't want to tell you a figure that's not correct, but I don't know the exact number as far as how many private pay individuals we have versus insurance.
So nobody has any idea what you're saying.
Oh, I can get it, yes, but I don't have it. I won't prepare for that tonight.
How about this? How much is uncollected that the county was owed by overall the population that you had picked up and taken to the hospital?
Uncollected debt, we range, pretty close to $200,000 a year.
And I know that we talked about this one time before. What is being done to bring that figure down? What could be done better?
Put it to a third-party collection contract with a third-party collection agency. You're looking at about a 15 to 20% collection rate of what the bad debt is. But that's the only other option. We do debt set off. And last year was about roughly $20,000, I think, collected from debt set off. And we send those letters out every November. So if someone hasn't paid and they get a lottery winning for their state income tax check, they don't get it, we get the money.
That's good, but I think we ought to be looking at that third-party collection to ramp up what we are owed. I mean, if people take advantage of a service, they should have to pay for it.
I've presented that 3 times, sir, and it's never passed.
That's something that really needs to be looked at hard.
Didn't we have a collection agency at one time?
We have all of our billing is done through through EMSMC, which is, they work the claims for, the contract says 120 days. They actually work it a lot longer than that. But anything that's not collected at that point is transferred over to bad debt. At that point.
Well, gentlemen, what has to be done? I mean, I'm one of the new members on the board, but how do we start the process of getting a collection agency to help us collect what's up in the county?
Well, basically, we put it out to bid. We get quotes from 3 or 4 different vendors, and we'll bring the quotes back to you if that's what the board would like us to do.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the times that we've done it, what we found out is it costs more to hire the company than we get back, which makes no sense to go to third-party collection if we're not going to collect enough to at least pay for it.
So are there outfits out there that do it on a percentage of what they bring in?
I don't know about,
The collection, depending on the age of the debt, runs anywhere from 20% to 50%
Of what's collected,
of
right?
what's collected.
And you said we would usually see about 20% of the bad debt collected.
Correct.
So $200,000, that's $40,000 of bad debt collected. And then we would pay 20% in fees to the collection agency of the $40,000.
Correct.
And from experience, anything over 120 days, you're just not gonna get it.
So just going by the average numbers, if you had $200,000 in bad debt, you would recover after fees, after everything, $32,000.
Well, what have we got to lose as a county by putting it out in the bids and seeing if we can get someone in here for the bad debt that you do not figure we're gonna be able to collect anyway? Part of something's better than nothing, and we're looking for a revenue source.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I mean, we've been presented to the board 3 times.
What do you gentlemen think?
But what is that gonna do for today? What is that gonna do for
It's gonna
if a paramedic
It's
quits?
gonna help us to enable to fill the hole, because whatever we do today will help these people, but it's gonna actually hurt the taxpayers' pockets, because somebody's gotta pay for it.
No, I said, what we gonna do for today's issue with these 3 gentlemen right here? We gonna wait for the bids to come in, or are we gonna try to do something else? We get to the point where if Mr. Everett only has 1 dispatcher, and John Q. Citizen calls and says, I've just had a shooting. Hold on just a minute, I'm on with something else. Is that what this board wants?
Mr. Maskill, I don't know where you're taking this off on a tangent, but I'm talking
It's
about-
not a tangent, it's the reality.
I'm talking.
Don't tell me to bring it in.
Rep, well, you're the one jumping on me, sir. You
I'm
started
not. I'm asking you a question.
I'm telling you, we will deal with this gentleman's request today.
Okay.
My thing is.
I don't disagree with the collection part of it, but this is not gonna, the collection part's not gonna solve what these guys need today. Not
Nor did I say it would.
28th or whatever it is, 22nd.
Nor did I say it would.
You were insinuating that.
No, sir. You're assuming, you know what to say about it.
Commissioners, we have.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Commissioners, we have two more agencies with us tonight. We have our 911 director, Kenneth. Would you like to say a few words about where you're at and what challenges you face? Mr. Kenneth Everett, the 911 director.
Thank you, County Manager, Chairman, Commissioners, for the time to be here tonight. Mr. Lynch has covered several things, but if you go to your phone or computer and you punch into Google and you type in 911 or emergency services shortage, you will get multiple links for all agencies across the state. On July the 18th, Durham County, 911 employees are leaving at 4 times the rate of other counties. September the 30th was Buncombe County. A call center in the mountains is not immune to staffing shortages. October the 4th was Guilford County facing staffing shortage with 19 vacancies. That's Guilford County. This is a national problem, and a national problem has to do with emergency services, not just 911, but also EMS and the Sheriff's Office and the Fire Service. Nothing that we are immune to here in Castle. Our staffing shortages have been experienced for the last 2 years. The timing of COVID and the complete inner workings of a pandemic has certainly increased the overall strain on all of emergency services. Our employees are leaving for 1, better pay, and 2, for controlled hours. When I say controlled hours, I mean they are no weekends, no holidays, and they don't want to do night shifts all the time. And we here don't offer a night shift premium or a weekend premium. We're kind of set at a daytime rate and a nighttime rate. And that can be a problem because one of the things we see across the state today is other agencies are not only raising salaries, they're also adding shift differential. Those are a couple of things that we don't have. Burnout for the profession is the reality. It's not something we think, but it's a reality. The staggering and mandatory overtime to cover vital positions have become a destructive effect to all of us. Behavioral impacts for the profession are real, from physical, mental, and social well-being. Our employees across the state have left in record numbers. Right now, if you call any educational institute that does anything from law, EMS, or 911 training, they've saw a 60% decrease in applicants that have applied for any type of education, which makes it even more difficult for a small county to recruit somebody when your education facilities don't have the students in the seat to train. Recruiting for telecommunicators is almost impossible. We had the most recent hiring process. I spent days trying to get somebody from the county to apply. Not only the ones that are on the outside, but the ones that are inside the county. I went several different places. We had a trained lady that applied for a job. She was from Alamance County. She put in. She wanted a different call pace and a more relaxed environment. She got the job. She called 3 days before starting and backed out. She took a job with Orange County for money and better controlled hours, which caused her to completely get out of the 911 industry altogether. We had spent multiple other weeks going different businesses, Food Line, Family Dollar, Dollar General, people that work here, that live here. We were trying to get them to apply, the ones that had great customer service. I spoke with a young lady about putting in an application. She asked me, the first question was, what do you pay? And I told her. I had no idea, and it completely blew me away that a lady that works at the Family Dollar in her position was making several $1,000s more, almost $44,000 compared to what we make here for the county. There was no way she could apply. I had no idea. It was completely mind-blowing for me. I was amazed. So recruiting has been really difficult for us all, even on our part-time staff and our full-time staff. So we're limited on who we can put in the seat for the next vacancies. Half of our staff lives in the county and half of our staff lives outside the county. We have communicators that have a year experience, all the way to 20 years experience. We want to keep every one of them in their seat, and we want to make sure that they do the job that they've continued to do that's amazed everybody. We have to commend the staff that I have today. In the last year, compared from 21 to 22, our call volume right now has went up 1,700 calls being processed in our 911 center. The year before that was about 1,000 less. So every day, what happens? Our call numbers continue to rise. Our staff right now answers calls 98% of the time in less than 10 seconds, which is amazing and sets records across the state for our staff to be only 2 and take care of all of our agencies. I can't thank them enough for staying here. A lot of them could choose to go other places and get a job and make a lot more money, but they have a heart and a dedication for Caswell County and its people, and they want to see us prosper. Thank you.
Good evening. Well, I don't have a formal statement, but I come here to ask, respectfully request that we look into the salaries, that we having problems, recruitment and retention of EMS workers, 911 and sheriff's office. I don't know why they need it. They're not just going to other agencies to work, they're going in and everywhere. It's hard to get, we have 6 openings on the sheriff's office side, four openings on the detention side, so we need people. I have friends that laugh at me because I go to the food line every day trying to recruit people to come work at the Caswell County Sheriff's Office. I go to the Dollar General, I go to Family Dollar, and try to tell people how great it is to work with Caswell County. It is a great place, but if you can make as much money somewhere else that's not as inherently dangerous, that you have to put rifle plating on, that you have to may be subject to someone throwing feces on you, maybe you might take that job. And I don't blame you. We may not compete with Orange County. We may not compete with Alamance County, but I ask that commissioners, with the help of the county manager, the finance director, if we can look into some way that we can better serve our community by retaining and recruiting top-notch folk, because everyone's in competition to receive the best and the brightest. At UNC, they're not just trying to get anybody, they want the best and the brightest. So Caswell County, we should want the best and the brightest. We shouldn't just settle. So, for what we can get. Now, these young men that went before me, they came out with some great numbers and statistics. I have numbers. If you want to see some numbers, I got them. We're the lowest paid in the area. I mean, Person County makes $209 more than us. Elon makes $5,000 more than us starting off. Gibsonville, $3,000 more than us starting off. Pennsylvania County, $5,000 more. Reedsville, $2,000 more. So when I say that, you know, money is 10%, 15%, I don't know what we can do, but we should just look into it, make sure that we try to do something. Because I keep crying chicken little, telling people the sky is falling with this casino, but no one wants to listen. But understand, water will come into the canoe somewhere. Do not let water come in through Caswell County. Because it's gonna find the weakest spot, and let us not be Caswell County. I'll answer any questions you have, and I will.
One thing that I think none of the folks that you've heard from emergency service tonight has addressed is the onboarding process. Sheriff, how long does it take to onboard somebody and get them to where they can go out?
Now, we expedited in Caswell County. Now, we'll get you from cradle to grave, meaning from front door to the back door, about 6 months. That's expediting background and this and that. That's if everything goes expeditiously, meaning it goes right down the line. But the problem we have is some people have lived. If you're 21, live with your mother and father, and stay in Caswell County on Hodgesdale Road, I pretty much do your background check in 6 months. But if you was in the military and you were stationed in Germany, then stationed in Colorado, then stationed in New York City, it's probably gonna take me 9 months to get you in this job. Because we have to check every address that you lived in the last 10 years. We have to check all your references. We have to check this and that. Then everybody can't be a deputy or a detention officer, because if you had a slight credit hiccup, you might not get hired. If you may have told somebody not to go to heaven one day, you got a charge, you may not get a job. So we're not looking for perfect people, but we try to get as close as we possibly can.
Mr. Miller, what kind of money are we looking at in the total project to bring emergency services?
So, not to be vague, but it depends.
Well,
It depends what the priorities of the board are. The priorities of the board would want to be the highest paying jurisdiction around, it's one figure. If it's the board wants us to be competitive, it's another figure. If it's the board wants us to be close enough to where we don't have people leaving, it's a different figure. So we need to know what the priorities of the board are before we set that number. Now, I've done some rough numbers, and based on the rough numbers that I have, to address this for emergency services and to bring emergency services up to the level they should be, you're probably looking at about $1,264,731 a year.
Which of those three did you just give us figures on? I hope it was the high one.
Yeah, that's not going to be the highest paying jurisdiction around. That'll get us on a level playing field with other jurisdictions.
Would you call that competitive? Is that what you're saying?
That's competitive.
Sheriff Derby,
Yes, sir.
am I correct that your officers start at about 37, give or take?
37-8.
37.8, that's give or take.
Give or take.
Did you hear that the Burlington City Council voted to start their police department out at 55?
Yeah, but you gonna earn that 55,000.
Yeah, I know you're gonna earn it. I know you're gonna earn it. They shoot straight over in Burlington. But we've still got to get up there a little better than 37 versus 55.
Well, I get better than 37, but when you working in Burlington, you're not working for me.
I understand that. Thanks, sir.
You'll take a little bit less, that's what we, but 50, now we don't need 55, I'll take 50.
I didn't say that either.
what does that figure bring it to? You said it makes it competitive, but for example, what does it do for the average EMS starting pay, the average sheriff's department starting pay? How much does it increase it?
It increases, I didn't break this down to an hourly rate, wage. Okay. Or EMT paramedic. That would move our EMT paramedic salary up to around 20. About $26 an hour.
Is that the paramedic or the EMT?
The paramedic.
Okay, paramedic. Then our surrounding counties are only $21 or $22 for a paramedic.
So paramedics are a little bit different in the way that Rockingham and Person and Alamance treat their paramedics. If you get a paramedic that's straight off the street, fresh out of school, and Barry, you want to help me with this a little bit? You get a paramedic that's right out of school, they have a base rate, and then with their experience, their salary increases throughout a range. I've presented this to the board. It's a pay and grade system.
Yeah, it's 22 to 25 in Alamance County. It's 21.35 to 27 in Person.
It's a very good possibility in the really, really near future that Alamance is going to 28. Don't know that for sure, but that's what the talk is right now, that they're going to 28. The salary ranges for Person and for Alamance is all they pay for. They give you increases based on years of service, which currently we don't have. Ours is one straight flat rate, whether you have 30 years or a year's service, it's the same rate.
Mr. Manager, I won't be here and won't vote on it, but would you come back to the new board with and just rough math, a 12% increase would get us to the, almost to the level that the other counties are, and hopefully not put our emergency services into jeopardy that I fear could happen?
We can.
We need to set up a work session on this with the new board.
I'm happy to do that.
What's the pleasure?
I think that would be a good idea, but I have one more thought that I'd like to throw out there. this is like the tip of the spear. All these gentlemen in here tonight are talking about the plight of their departments. We have a lot of other county employees, and it's done for this group. It's gonna be done for the rest of them. They're gonna want it eventually, if they hadn't already asked, and I don't blame them. What are the board's plans to deal with that as it comes to pass?
Well, what we've seen in the past is, and you're exactly right, when we see increases given to one group of people, then it creates morale issues throughout the rest of the organization, because it's seen that some jobs are considered more important than others. So I think you're right. At some point, I think the board is going to have to address this, as Commissioner Hall has pointed out multiple times, holistically. And the board's going to have to look at everything and make some decisions based on your employee base. There are ways of doing this where the board deals with this one time, and then every 4 years thereafter, the board deals with it. You're not having these recurring problems because the increases are built in and they're based off seniority and salary or years of service and so on and so forth. And I'm happy to bring a plan back before the board that looks like that too. But I think Commissioner McVeigh and Commissioner Jeffries are right in that we probably ought to have a work session to address this.
How about setting that up?
Okay. When would you like to do that?
You got any preference? As soon as we can get it done, one afternoon, after they're sworn in. I would wait until they're sworn in.
Okay.
Do you have, can you send it back, which would be best?
Night.
Tonight?
Yes.
We can get it at night.
Let's do it in the evening.
Okay.
Any more questions?
One quick question. The million and some dollars that you mentioned, does that cover all three departments or just one?
All three. That covers all emergency services personnel.
$1,254,000. Any more questions?
Well, I don't have a question, just a comment, because I think all of those men sitting over there would agree that with that casino coming, there's going to be more stress and more time and more resources needed from all of our emergency services departments. It's just going to be natural because there are going to be more people coming through this county. There are going to be more things that spread from Danville this way. You know, there's the good things about casinos, but with every casino that you look at, there are negatives that come along with that. And I think this board's going to have to face that reality. And if you don't do it now, you're going to be forced to do it, and it's going to really hurt the pocketbook at some time, because it's no doubt that our Department of Emergency Services are going to be more taxed as more people come through this county. That's it.
Anything else?
And I do want to make another comment. As we talk about increasing salaries, gentlemen, we need to be thinking about the taxpayers in this county and who's going to put this bill ultimately, and the stress that they're already under. They have an ongoing problem too. They're dealing with inflation, just like all these gentlemen are. And we do not need to lose sight of the fact that those people have problems at home. We don't need to be burdening them unnecessarily to the point that they can't pay their property taxes.
Right. I think all of this can be brought out in our work session. If there's no more questions, we're going to move on, and we will do the Board of Elections restroom discussion. After that, we'll take about a 5-minute break before we go into action. Mr. Miller?
Commissioners, I was asked to include this on our agenda because of comments that were made by Board of Election employees during the general election, that the Board of Commissioners did not fund restrooms for the Board of Elections. during the budgeting process, and therefore they did not have restrooms at the polling sites for the public to visit. So I was asked to put this on the agenda as a discussion item, so I'll take it away.
We contacted the Board of Elections, if I'm correct, 3 different times, and asked them to set up a meeting with us. And 3 times, they turned us down, one excuse after the other. Then they come back at a later date, I think in March, and said, we can meet again. And I said, no, I ain't meeting with you now. You couldn't meet with us earlier in the year, talk about the money that you sent back to the federal government, and to talk about these issues. So I didn't worry about the rest of it. Let them go. So that's why we did not meet with the Board of Elections. But I will stand firm on that.
What, Mr. Manager, Mr. Chairman, which voting precincts did not have access to restrooms?
There is no reason that I can think of that a voting precinct, especially at one of these fire stations, that people cannot go in and use the restroom. They can be gone in a different way from the voters or whatever. I don't know whose rules and regulations this was. People could not use the restroom in the fire department. But I don't see us having to spend money on porta johns.
Well, you got to give us a hint. Which fire departments?
I'm sorry,
Which fire departments?
all of them.
Mr. Massey,
Yes, sir.
Providence Fire Department, on election day, I was personally told by the Board of Elections official, and I've got the name, I won't call it out at the meeting, but if they want to come over here and talk, we will, that we would not pay for porta johns. They were telling the voters coming in that this board was to blame for them not having restroom facilities, and they would not let the poll workers go in to those facilities to use a restroom. I got a call from Pelham, and they told me the same thing was going on over there. So it's an actual issue that's been stirred up. Yes, sir.
Were poll workers told by whom? Do you know?
I don't have the name here with me, but I can give it to Mr. Miller. I told you who the guy's name was. Do you remember off the top of your head?
Larry Cowan.
Okay, there you go.
And
Board chair.
But he told the board, he told the workers they could not use the bathrooms.
He told the poll workers not to let the elections people go in there. If you were working the polls, you could not go to the restroom in the facilities. They were not letting you in. You couldn't go into the place.
Okay, who is they not letting them use it? The fire departments or the Board of Elections?
Board of Elections, not the fire department. No.
The state, just for a little clarification, the state has certain rules surrounding voter interaction within the polling place. They don't want people trying to influence the way a voter would vote after they enter the polling place. You know, we're all knowledgeable about that 30-foot line or ever how many feet it is that candidates have to remain behind. Once a member of the public moves inside that line, you know, they can no longer solicit for the so that is kind of the issue that from time to time the Board of Elections runs into. And that those are the reasons we've been given that.
It's the funny thing to me, when we ran in early voting, we were able, anybody, you were there, was able to go into the restroom facility at the Board of Elections. They had people standing out there, and you couldn't carry nothing in or anything. But we did go in and use that restroom right there. And the same thing, as far as I'm concerned, could apply to everywhere else.
Go ahead. The gentleman that I spoke with at Providence was Paul Cross, the election office. That's who told me that.
And he was told by the elections.
That's what he got. Yes, sir.
And the reason was
I don't know the reason. I'm giving you the regulations behind that they've stated before. as to why they needed the portable facilities present at the voting precincts. And it's because of their inability to separate the voters, and just to make crystal clear that nobody is influencing them once they enter into the facility.
Does anybody know if the Board of Elections contacted any of the fire chiefs and said, how can we work this out so that the voters are over here and the people who want to go to restrooms here?
I'm not sure. I think that was, at the time, I think that was the recommendation from the board, is try to configure the voting in such a way that you didn't have that possibility. I think the board asked for a meeting with the Board of Elections to try to figure that out. The Board of Elections was unable to meet with the Board of Commissioners evidently for about 2 months, right? And so the issue just kind of went away.
Commissioner McGuff, how many times did we offer to sit down with the Board of Elections and try to work this out? Was it 3 times that they were?
Yes, I offered 3 times. I tried to get them to meet with us on three different occasions. One time, I believe this is right, because it's been a while. I believe the election board director, White, passed away. But the other 2 times, they just didn't act like, and I think Mr. Miller, you were shaking your head for it.
No, that wasn't the reason.
That wasn't the reason.
It was a funeral that they didn't. Now, I don't know who died, but it.
But it wasn't the elections, the Board of Elections directors' wife. No.
Well, she did pass away.
Anyway.
Anyway, multiple times we tried to.
2 or 3 different times I tried to get them to come and meet with us. To talk about the situation.
But he's chairman.
I was because of the amount of COVID money that they sent back without talking to anybody else and getting any other ideas. They sent quite a bit of money back to the federal government. And then, I don't know, later on, do you know, Mr. Miller, what it was they sent us a note?
They sent us an email on March 15th. We plan to attend the 3/21 commissioners meeting to answer questions the commissioners may have. Was told 2/2/22 by the county manager, 6:30 was the time for us to come. Is that correct? What about location? And so
we made an effort to get in touch with them. If they want to act like it's just la la land, then it's fine.
I just wanted to bring this out all publicly and on the record, since they are trashing us at the poll saying it's our fault. We invited them to come over and try to solve the issue. They turned us down. What else can we do?
We invite them, yes, sir.
Commissioner Dixon, I just want to make sure it wasn't any fire department saying no.
No.
That's what I wanted. That's the point I'm bringing up, because
No, nobody at the fire department.
Okay.
Anybody, no. Because in fact, I know in Casville, in this past election, there was a fellow that was let go in and use the restroom.
Okay. I just want to make sure that.
This has been an ongoing problem. I know I mentioned that before this year, last year, the year before. Not only poll workers, citizens could not use the restroom at Cassville. And that's been an issue for several years. We've got to find a way to handle this problem, find a way to hold somebody accountable.
What was the issue at Casville?
Citizens couldn't use the bathroom.
I mean, because of Casville Fire Department or the Board of Elections?
no,
It's always the Board of Elections.
Board of Elections.
Once the Board of Elections have voted, they take control and their rules apply. And they make up the rules as they go, it seems to me.
It's a funny thing to me, we could go down here to the Board of Elections office, especially where we're voting. But
Commissioner McVeigh, if you remember, they wanted us to pay for 2 porta johns to be put in Yanceville and shut off, anyone using those restrooms as well.
at the
Yeah, at the,
municipal building.
no, at
At
the
the
election office.
election office.
That's how ridiculous that
As
conversation.
far as I remember, there was no problem at all. with people going
Not at all.
to the restroom. None whatsoever.
None.
Is there any more discussion on these restrooms? If not, we're gonna take about a 5-minute break and then we'll go to action items.
I hope that we do get them here at a meeting at some point. And figure out how to resolve it or how to hold them responsible.
I think they might be able to do it. We'll start the meeting back at this time. We'll do action items, senior center grant. Senior center grant.
Okay. Commissioners, we have Senior Center Director, Janine Everett. You've already heard a little bit about the grant, pretty much everything about the grant. But what we need the board to do is accept the grant funding so we can get it into a budget amendment and get it back before the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the grant funding.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? If not, we'll do roll call voting. Mr. Massengill? Aye. Mr. Ostraker? Aye. Mr. Owen? Aye. Mr. Jeffries? Aye. Mr. Howell? Aye. Mr. Dickerson? Aye. McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. Letter of recommendation for Pelham Industrial Park from EDC. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, you had in your agenda packet a letter from the Economic Development Commission, the Joint County Joint Economic Development Commission. And the letter basically outlines public-private partnerships in the Pelham Industrial Park, as well as the Yanceyville Industrial Park, as well as exploring shell building programs offered by the state, and the sale of those industrial park lands at a reasonable price to those willing to enter into an economic development venture with the county. So if it pleases the board and the board would like me to move forward with seeing how those public-private partnerships work with individuals or with entities, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to look into the shell building program that's offered by the state and recommend to the board an average cost per acre of land if you'd like.
Questions? If there are no questions, you have a question? If there are no questions, what's the pleasure of the board? You need a motion for this, correct?
Well, I'd like to know if the board would like me to proceed with entering into these discussions. And I mean, there would still be a lot that needed to be done and a lot of actions taken by the board moving forward. But if it pleases the board, this is just the first step of us entering into these development type projects.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to know.
Okay, I move that he proceed to investigate.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to proceed to investigate it. Is there any more discussion? If not, roll call voting. Mr. Dickerson? Aye. Mr. Howell? Aye. Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Aye. Mr. Ostraker? Mr. Massengill? Aye. McVeigh, aye. Motion carries. The Animal Protection Society.
Commissioners, this evening we have with us, it seems, many members from the Animal Protection Society and one representative that's going to speak to So I'd ask the one representative, it looks like Mitch Hawkins, come up to the mic and speak for a few minutes.
My name is Dr. Mitch Foster. I'm on the board with the Animal Protection Society, which runs the animal shelter here in the county. I appreciate your time, and I understand most of the quandary that you're in with everybody asking for funds. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the shelter and the fantastic job that they have done. This shelter probably has one of the lowest euthanasia rates, especially for dogs, of any shelter around. Right now, like I said, probably the last 6 months, we're euthanizing less than 5% of the dogs that come into the shelter. That's a stark difference from, I reckon, what people think of the animal shelters and pounds. And we've really worked hard to try to improve that image. And most people are afraid to bring an animal to the shelter. Well, I guess going to put it to sleep. I can't commend the staff enough for the hard work that they've done to improve that euthanasia. But that comes sort of at a little bit of a cost. That hard work that they've done definitely has created some issues. Like I said, we've tried to really work with fostering animals and finding adoptive agencies throughout the country to, move these animals, because there are a lot of areas that have better spay-neuter laws. To me, I remember 10 years ago when I found out about, we were shipping animals up to New York, New Jersey, and I wondered, well, why? Where are their dogs and cats and puppies? But they have stricter spay-neuter laws and differential licensing, so they don't have that problem. What we're coming before you tonight is to request some funds to help us continue with this. Our shelter has recently, along with every shelter in the area and throughout the country, we had COVID hit. And when COVID hit, everybody, was staying at home and they wanted a pet. So there were a lot of them went to shelters and they adopted. Now COVID's getting old. People are going back to work. So now people that have adopted animals, some of them are taking them back. And then we don't have those resources available for people to adopt for us. What we would like to do, we've got 2 funds that we would like to kind of use this money for. Number one is to set up a spay-neuter program through the shelter to help individuals with low income, and also help us spay and neuter some of the dogs that are in the shelter to make them a little bit more adoptable so that we can continue to try to move them out of the shelter. This is a tremendous benefit, not only to the animals, but it's the only way we're going to get out of this cycle that we're in. You can't continue to adopt enough animals out to really make this program change. You're going to continue to have more animals come in unless we can do something to cut down on the population. So, this funding that we're requesting will really, we hope, help decrease some of the burden of animals coming to the shelter, and also kind of help, the county as well, because we'll have less, hopefully, unwanted animals in the area. The other part of the program that we're looking to use some of this funds for is, just like everybody now with inflation, it's hit everything. Well, it's hit, obviously, all the residents of Castle County, and it's also hit your pet food. And we've had multiple people come, and they can't afford to feed their animals nowadays. And I mean, that's hard. And I know we have citizens that are having problems feeding themselves. So I know the struggle is difficult for y'all with the money. But like I said, we have multiple people that have come and requested, some dog food, some cat food, just to get me through. And so that's another part that we'd like to be able to use some of this money for. To help, feed some of the animals that owners just can't do these days. Any questions?
How much are you asking for?
$10,000. I know that again, y'all been bombarded with figures and I know it's hard, and $10,000 is, I'm not gonna say a small amount, but, you know, the amount of money that amount of money, the difference that it could make in hopefully saving some animals' lives, would be tremendous. So.
Any questions? Mr. Ostrowski?
When you foster or adopt out an animal, cat or dog, I guess, to the new owner, do you include shots and spaying and neutering in that, or is that optional, or how does that work?
Any dog that is adopted is required to be spayed and neutered. And the people pay a fee to cover that. The shelter, when an animal comes in, automatically provides shots for those animals, whether they're adopted or not. I mean, some of them, you know, potentially could end up being put to sleep. But like I said, any animal that comes in, you know, they get their vaccinations, their core vaccinations, rabies, and other core vaccinations for the dogs and the cats.
And who does the spay and neuter?
We have several veterinarians in the area that have agreed to a real reduced price to try to help the shelter. That price has been pretty much the same. I mean, we had a price increase about 2 years ago. And before that, the last price increase was about 10 years ago. So it is a real incentive. We also work with a spay-neuter program out of Greensboro. That's been a struggle lately because just like everywhere else, they don't have staff. So trying to get dogs and cats spayed at some of these low-cost facilities, you know, outside of the county has been a real struggle.
Thank you.
How many dogs and cats do you take in a month that you're talking about having spayed?
Susan can probably better answer that. How many dogs do we normally take in a month?
30 or more, maybe more than that, and probably 40 cats.
Say those numbers again, please.
How many?
I didn't hear.
30 or more dogs, 40, 60 cats.
31 dogs,
Yeah.
40 or 60 cats.
Yep.
And how many are adopted out?
A lot of them are in foster homes now. I wish I had my stats. I didn't think we didn't bring this. We have them in foster homes, we have them in boarding kennels because we're trying to save their lives until they do get home. That's been very costly for us, but it's necessary. We do a lot of rescues. We'll come and get them. Different breed rescues, pretty much. We'll come get the different breeds. Adoptions are good. Social media has been amazing to get it out there. Most of our adoptions, we have a few in the county, but most of them are coming from all over the state. Georgia, even just adoptions. And where was the last one? New York.
New York, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Tennessee, Virginia.
And these people drive in. I had some guy that owns this dog from California, and I said, we just, you know, if you want to come drive and get it, you can, but you know, I can't afford to ship it out there. Yeah.
I can't commend this staff enough. I mean, for really a 5% euthanasia rate is unbelievable. There are no-kill shelters in the area, but what they do is they have selective. They cut off, well, we don't take this dog, we don't take that dog. So they are very selective. I know there's been other county-run shelters that have times quit taking in pets. We in Castle have not. We've had other people that have tried to come here, and we've tried to, you know, encourage them to know if you're not a resident from Castle County, then, you know, you need to take your dog to, back to Alamance County and have it, you know, adopted there or take to the shelter there. But they have restrictions where people can't even come in for like a week at a time. So, I mean, this staff has done an amazing, fantastic job and saved countless lives.
This thing turned red on me, so it must want me to shut up. How many animals can you keep in the shelter that you have now?
We've got 16 runs, dog runs, and 4 isolation runs, which we're using 4 dogs right now. Some dogs have 2 and 3 dogs in a run, just good, optimal dogs that have been vaccinated. Were vaccinated, spayed, neutered, they're ready to go. They're ready for rescue, they're ready for adoption. We also have 48 cat cages, cat kennels, some of which have multiple cats in them. And mama, and we've got a mom with 7 babies. Just lots of kittens still from kitten season. They're in our back room.
Well, Mr. Bush will fill his truck up with cats again and go to New York.
He's been doing it.
I know he has,
Massachusetts.
and I thank him for that.
We also have 2 hounds, the ones that don't hunt no more, that are in Canada now. So that's as far as our dog breed.
You create a lot of ruckus there. If you got the $10,000, how many do you anticipate that the $10,000? $100, $200?
Probably what you'd be looking at is, the spay neuter part. If you did nothing but the spay neuter, that averages, I'm gonna say around 100. Smaller dogs are more or less, bigger dogs are more, cats are less, but let's just say around $100 per animal. So yeah, at least 100 animals. Of course, like I said, we're looking at spending some of this money for food as well, for those people that just can't afford to feed their pets.
That was gonna be part of my question. Is it just spayed and neutered, or got a question?
Yes. Are there any grants that you guys apply for?
Yes, multiple grants. I mean, we get multiple funding sources from different grants. We're right now looking to, we've gotten some grants to improve our facilities lately. And we've got another one for the Community Foundation of the Dan River region that we anticipate. We kind of made the first hurdle, which normally means we get funding for that.
How much are both of those?
I know we got, I think it was $5,000 from the North Carolina Veterinary Medical Association to help us renovate part of the facilities in the shelter and for fencing. The
2,500 this year.
2,500 this year from them as well. And then the Community Foundation grant was for?
The applications for 17, the project is 27,000. They will fund everything. So we've asked for part of it from them, and we'll have to come up with the rest somewhere else.
Yeah. So we've asked for 17,000 from the Community Foundation of the Dan River region, and the project that we're looking is total of 27,000. So we're trying to find as many resources as we can to help fund things.
How about grants on the state or let's go beyond that, just private grants? I know there are many people who provide, private individuals who provide grant money.
We get a lot of donations from people that realize the hard work that this shelter is doing. I mean, our donations have really gone up over the past several years. They're not grants as such, but we also get a grant from a foundation called the Roper Foundation. I think that's like 5,000.
8,000 this year.
Got 8,000 this year, so, you know, there's money out there and we are actively applying for grant after grant after grant. Sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't.
Why did you not apply for this during the regular budget cycle?
Well, you know, when we applied back in March, for the regular budget cycle, we were full, but we weren't as full as we are now. I mean, things have really changed in the last 6 months. Again, all I can say is I don't know if it's COVID, if people have now all of a sudden just taking their animals back to the shelter, or they're not adopting anymore because they're back in full-time work, or they, you know, my theory on that really is we sort of over-adopted during COVID. In other words, people came in and kind of helped empty the shelters. Now all of those that have adopted have got kids. So, you know, it's harder to find new people that want to adopt. So I think that there's been a little bit of a difference there.
How many after-hour calls do you get for people that have, you know, people come out and pick the animals up?
That would go under animal control. They handle.
You're not tied in with that?
No, not, you know, we house the animals for the county, that animal control picks up. So we really don't have anything to do with animal control as far as what they pick up, when they pick up, how they pick up.
Are you looking at this, is this something you're looking at every year? That you're gonna request every year in your budget? The additional 10,000 for this, or is this a one-time shot right now?
I will say that I'm hoping it's a one-time shot. I'm hoping that this will greatly, you know, maybe make a change in things. Hopefully, again, as now time moves forward, new people that have adopted before, now we're gonna find some new people that don't have animals, and maybe the cycle will change. So it is not something that I'm gonna say that we will anticipate doing year after year now.
Mr. Miller, forward money come from? Out of the general fund?
Yes, general fund.
And I'm gonna ask you a question, I know what you're gonna tell me already, but the money that we relocated back into our fund balance from COVID. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but generally, how much out of that fund that we use do we have left, do you know? Just roughly.
Wasn't it 70,000?
Yeah, but I think you made it an additional appropriation since, or no, you haven't because you didn't do anything with the seniors.
That's correct.
Yeah, so theoretically, there's some.
Theoretically.
But I want to reiterate to the board, those are not COVID money anymore. Those are general fund monies. And we, okay.
But we've got 70 grand of that.
You have general fund money. That's what you have, general fund.
Say it.
I make them give $10,000 that
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jeffers made a motion to give them the $10,000.
Take their fund.
Second.
I can get a second.
We have a motion and a second to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We have a motion and a second to give them the $10,000. Is there any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. Manager, what is our policy on off-budget items over $10,000 or greater?
Over $10,000, you can't vote on it the first time it's discussed.
Over 10,000. Any more questions? We have a motion on the floor. We'll do roll call voting. Mr. Massengill?
He ain't sleeping.
Huh?
Wake him up.
Mr. Massey Deal, we'll do a roll call vote.
I know what we're doing.
Oh, man. Mr. Ostriker,
I won't take as long. Aye.
Mr. O. Mr. Jeffers. Sir? Mr. Jeffers?
I said that.
Okay. Mr. Howell?
I'm gonna say aye, but I have a problem getting things in the middle of the year. And then ask to vote on it. I think that, we should take more time to consider it, and we should talk to all of the departments and contractors about what they think they're gonna need before we do the budget.
And we don't do that. You mentioned that before. Yeah. Mr. Dickerson?
I echo what Mr. Hall said. My concern is we keep appropriating off-book spending and adding to the obligation of the county, and on principle, I'm going to vote no.
And McVeigh, yes. Motion carries.
Gentlemen, I thank you, and I realize how hard Hazard County money is, and I promise you, we will be good stewards of that. Like I said, I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. County manager's update.
Commissioners, I have a couple updates for you. I want you to know that Family Services is applying for a Human Trafficking Commission grant in the amount of $86,540. And they're also applying for a GCC Victims of Crime Act competitive grant.
Mr. Miller, can we wait just a second? These folks are wanting to leave, and it's hard to hear. Y'all go ahead. Well, okay, Mr. Miller.
So Commissioners, I want to make you aware that Family Services is applying for a couple grants. The first one is a Human Trafficking Commission grant in the amount of $86,540. The second one is a GCC Victims of Crime Act competitive grant, and they've applied for $150,000. Neither of these grants require a county match. So I think we're good to go. I don't need any action from the board because they're requesting the grants. They're applying for the grants. I want to let you know they're doing that. If they receive the grants, they'll come back in front of you as a board for your approval and acceptance. Any questions?
Yes, could you elaborate on that second grant?
It's a Governor's Crime Commission Victims of Crime Act, and it's a competitive grant. So it's a grant where they compete with other jurisdictions, and they could be awarded full funding or partial funding or no funding.
How will that money be applied? I'm curious as to what it will do.
This is a facilities type grant that will help with the facilities that we have. It also will help with some programming. I want to let you know that on December 5th, that's our next meeting date. December 5th, we'll have a photographer here to take pictures, to update the large picture we have downstairs at the commissioners. So, so you're aware, we're going to take pictures that day. Wear your fancy threads. Also want the board to know that we've had multiple requests from staff to take this coming Wednesday off here in the courthouse. There's a good possibility that we'll be closing the courthouse altogether on Wednesday. So if you need anything, try to get with myself or Carla tonight or Tuesday. There is a chance nobody will be at the historic courthouse Wednesday. I'm happy to answer any questions you have or update you on anything you would like updated. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
What's the status of the economic development?
We've received four applications, maybe six applications for the economic developer. That's the next set of interviews that we plan to conduct. So we should be scheduling those within the next 2.5 weeks. We do, for the economic developer, just as we've done many appointments here lately, we're approaching that in a little bit different way, and we're conducting panel interviews. So I may be reaching out to a board member or so to help assist with the panel.
Anything else? Commissioner comments, Commissioner Hall.
Yes, sir. Fellow commissioners, as you are aware, I was asked to attend the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference, and I did attend. We had 7 categories of goals that were submitted, and I won't try to list them all, but one of our goals that we submitted was closely related to agriculture. And it says to support regulations and economic policies that promote small family farms. And so that goal did pass, and it will be moved on. See, I had my notes here. So the next group that we had an interest in was, got my pages numbered wrong here. Okay.
Bigger print. Bigger print or your glasses?
I don't know which one will help. The next one was in public education. And support school calendar policies that promote optimal study outcomes and best meet the needs of our local communities. And that one basically had to do with aligning local school calendars with community college calendar. A lot of people around the state are having problems with that. You know, students can't get started one way or the other because the calendars don't jive. Then the last one is in tax and finance. Seek legislation that preserves existing local revenue by providing just compensation to counties for property acquired by the state and removed from the ad valorem taxes. That has to do with one of our goals as it relates to the game land and the prisons. So on that particular goal, I got up and I addressed the voting delegates, and that one moved on. We had a total of 68 8 voting delegates. And that one passed 62-0. So nobody voted against it. Some of them just didn't vote. But that was fine. So that will move on.
What were the comments on that, Commissioner Hall? Were there comments on that?
Yes, in the western part of the state, there's a lot of state game land and state-owned property and federal property. And so some of them commented, they thought that was a good idea.
Well, we have the same thing here, in that we answer several calls a year for either fires on the game land or searches when they lost something. But yet we get nothing out of that particular part of it.
There's approximately 17,000 some acres here in the county that we don't get a dime on.
Right.
And I've been working at that level for 3 years now, to no avail.
I had a private conversation with the deputy director of the association to ask her some legal questions. And she's gonna get back with me. One of the questions I asked was, could we build the game land or Scouts, Cherokee Scout Reservation, if we have to go in, search for people, put out fire, do other things, because they don't pay any taxes. And so I hope I'll get a kind of a legal or semi-legal response from the association on that question.
Okay.
And that also included EMS, because you got people falling out of trees and all of that when they are hunting on the game land.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. And that's the brief summary. We had 10 federal goals that we passed in block. There was no comment on. And it was generally just trying to get more money from the federal government and stop unfunded mandates. And one of those also had to do with payment in lieu of taxes on federal property.
Any more commissioner comments? If not, we'll move on to announcements and upcoming events. November the 24th through the 25th, Thanksgiving county offices will be closed, and I guess we're adding Wednesday to that.
No, just maybe the historic courthouse.
Just historical, okay. Then December the 2nd, we got the Christmas tree lighting. December the 3rd, we got the Christmas parade. And December the 5th at 9 a.m. will be the commissioners meeting. That's when the new officers, new commissioners are sworn in. Any more announcements? If not, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion. We go into closed session.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to go into closed session. We'll do roll call voting.
Mr. Chair, before you go into roll call voting, could you just identify the purpose of the closed session? I believe it's just a personnel item before you this evening in closed session. Mr. Manager, will you confirm that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I forgot about it. Getting in a hurry.
So if it's acceptable, just amend the motion to go into closed session for the purposes of discussing the performance terms of employment of a public officer.
You can amend it.
What did you just say?
Except,
How do you?
accept the amendment.
What did you just say? Or you have it down on paper?
No, you just accept the amendment.
I accept the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on accepting the amendment. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Now sit in closed session.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those,
What about the minutes, throw that in?
no. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. We are now adjourned.